Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I am your host, Bryan O'Rourke. Thanks for joining us today. The summer is upon us, and as I mentioned in prior podcasts, we have a few events coming up. In July, there's Ideal World, which is in the LA area. I am going to be there on that Thursday. I think I'll be participating in a panel. I highly recommend you attending that if you're in the area, and hope to see you there. Also, I think in September is the upcoming Beyond Active event in New York, and I'll be attending that event too. I think I'll be doing a little talk or being on a panel, so I look forward to seeing all you up there in New York in September. Today, our guest on the pod is Brandon Bean, and Brandon has a phenomenal background, in finance, and of course was the CEO of Gold's Gym. I work with Brandon. I've known him for a number of years, a classy guy. And about 5 years ago, he founded Lumin Fitness and Mixed Partners. And so Lumin won our Fitness Plus Technology Award as being the most innovative operator in the fitness health club space. His new Lumin concept is what we're going to talk about today, along with trends around technology and business models. Again, Brandon is a very thoughtful guy. So without further ado, let's introduce Brandon. Bring him on.
Hello, listeners. As I said in the intro, it's a great honor to have my longtime friend and colleague, Brandon Bean, on. Brandon, where are you joining us from?
In Dallas, Texas, Lumin headquarters.
I really, really want to congratulate you. It's been a 5-year journey to concepting the Lumin concept to today, and I think you're approaching your 5-year anniversary. So, congratulations!
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a long, exciting journey for us, for sure.
Yeah, we've been following you very closely and saw you at URSA, of course, and the other events. So it was great to learn more about it. Tell the listeners right now, because I've worked with you since I guess about 2014 when we first maybe met and worked together when you were heading up goals, which was a great experience, and I really learned to respect you in that engagement going forward, which was a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of trends back then. I think you even saw that interview with Michael Scott Scudder years ago, even before then. So tell us, when we're thinking about things like personalization, intelligence, artificial intelligence, or machine learning, or all these different personalization, all these different trends we were talking about 10 years ago or more. What are you seeing right now out there when it comes to these kind of trends?
Well, I think everybody, I'm sure all your listeners are aware of AI and hearing about machine learning, and it's impacting every aspect of every business. I don't think any business escapes it. And so everybody's not struggling, but trying to identify the opportunities that are relevant for them. And I think, much like when the internet started, companies were trying to figure out how to take advantage of new technology. And it took a while for everybody to get their footing, and everybody fears it initially. And I think everybody gets comfortable with it over time. I think we're in that phase now where, OpenAI ChatGPT was really just released in November of, kind of a year and a half ago. And it really changed a lot about a lot of different industries, ours included. I think the fitness industry traditionally has been, and you and I have been in it a long time, has been slow on the brick and mortar side to adopt new technologies, not for lack of wanting to or wanting to be on trends, but it's not really been our core competency. And so there were other folks, not the incumbents, that really came to the industry to try to introduce technology to the consumer. So you saw great innovation out of wearables, out of connected fitness, out of apps, but really nothing happening in the brick and mortar space. And so that's where the group I'm working with set out in 2019 to really try to reinvent and reintroduce technology to the brick and mortar space, to try to introduce that not only to operators, which is a big focus of ours, and leveraging technology for them, but also for the consumer.
Yeah, and that makes sense because all the, as you know, you're well read, all the research you do, whether it's the McKinsey reports or any, general kind of research on consumer behavior, the digitization of everything is happening. Isn't the trick to figure out the right balance of human and technology?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And for Lumin, so just to give you a quick overview of who we are and where we emanated from and why we exist, we set out to build what we call our Lumin operating system. So the Lumin operating system is what we built completely internally, start to finish, and is really a smart movement ecosystem for brick and mortar fitness. And that powers Lumin Fitness, which is the kind of first concept that we've launched, which is a high intensity functional training, 45-minute class-based boutique experience that's powered by technology in a number of different aspects, AI being part of that, machine learning being part of that, but not every aspect of it. When we launched in 2019, as I mentioned earlier, AI wasn't really even consumer friendly or consumer ready. So we didn't launch Lumin based on taking advantage of AI, but we have a team and a core competency of ours that is able to leverage new technologies as they arise. And so when AI was introduced, it really altered our course from an internal hiring perspective, our technology pipeline perspective. A lot of the content in our studios is generative AI, as opposed to humans actually having to create this content. So our content and production team drastically reduced in size from what we anticipated needing, whether that was sight, sound, motion. AI is really enabling us to leverage that tool to provide this in a much quicker and more cost-effective manner. So Lumin Fitness is one of our verticals. We also have launched the Station by Lumin, which is a single station experience for on-demand AI-powered personal training for existing brick and mortar gyms. So we're working with 4 brands out of the gate to put 4 individual stations inside of their locations so that their consumers can experience personal training in maybe a slightly more cost-effective manner than they've historically experienced it. From my background at Gold's, we had 2 to 3% personal training penetration. Some firms do better, some companies do worse than that, but that's a really small penetration. And there's so much value in the human and so much value in the personal training experience. A lot of consumers just don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to progress in their fitness journey. And people are really big, historically, have been a very big part of that and will continue to be a big part of it. But I think our mindset is, how do you leverage technology to assist personal trainers in brick and mortar facilities or at the studio? Our studios all have coaches on site. We're not aiming to replace coaches. That human element is such a vital part of the boutique experience, and it will continue to be for us. But we looked at it from an operator's perspective, and what can we do using technology to provide leverage to that human resource, to make them do their job better, to allow them to spend their time on the things that A, they want to spend time on, and B, that create the most value for the community in the boutique studio.
Yeah, so your experiences as Gold's, along with other industry experiences as well, you were trying to solve a problem, and that was, how do you deliver these personalized experiences that are really impactful at scale in a very personalized way that's going to expand that revenue base? Is that the kind of problem? Tell me about your kind of idealization of that and how you concepted the problems that you were solving.
Great. Yeah, good question. We have been clear from day one at Lumin that we have 2 customers. So our customer is the franchisee. Had a lot of experience with you and others at Gold's in trying to figure out how we serve them better. Because if the franchisees are successful, ultimately the brand will be successful. And I think a lot of brands lose sight of that for various reasons. That's one of our customers. So our partner is a very important customer of ours, and the member is also a customer of ours. So on the franchisee side and the gym partner side, it's about how do we leverage technology to make their business more successful. I think one of the challenges in boutique fitness, the consumer loves boutique. It's growing, continues to grow the industry. The younger the consumer gets, the more they want to do these individual modalities, these small group classes and community. It's really a difficult struggle for the operator. So we've seen it in some of the public companies. We hear it from other brands that the franchisees just don't do quite as well financially as they'd hoped out of the gates. And a lot of that gets down to having a cost structure in place that has a break-even point that's too high for the industry. So a lot of these boutique concepts will level out and mature around $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 of revenue. And unfortunately, the business model put in place doesn't work at that level. So they find themselves doing a lot of things as an owner operator they didn't want to do, right? They thought they were going to get into this and be able to hire the staff to be able to deliver this experience. And all of a sudden you end up not only being the owner, but being the operator and running classes and teaching classes. Just because the margins aren't there, you end up cutting on marketing spend because that's something you can control. And that's not a good place to be. You've got to continue to invest in your brand in your local area. So we really set out with the ultimate goal of how do we build a boutique experience with a cost structure that actually works long-term at a lower break-even point. The high, it will certainly work at the $1 million level and work better than other concepts, but we were really intent on focusing on how do you run this on a low labor model? Because in the boutique space, those are your two big cost drivers, labor and rent. So we try to have a very a compact box that accomplishes what we're trying to accomplish, but also a very low labor model. So we've created something that can be run with one person on staff at a time to keep that labor cost lower.
Yeah, that's, as you know, we talked about this before. When you talk about adopting franchising as a strategic decision for the growth of your business, unit economics are everything, because I've grown a number of franchise brands as you have. And it's as of late that kind of, as you mentioned earlier, and I tend to agree with you, a number of franchisors, I think, have really lost sight of the fact that licensing a bunch of locations doesn't mean success. What means success in the long run is a sustainable business model that has a competitive advantage in the marketplace, right?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it comes down to, too, I think what you see is a change of ownership. Private equity is a great vehicle for growth, but also when you have new ownership come into place and you look for ways to financially optimize the business, the easiest place to go is to your franchise system, right? And you start thinking about how you can make a little bit more money at the brand level off of your franchisees. And so I think having that mindset for us, this is a long-term ownership play for me. This is something that I'm passionate about. We built a team that's passionate about it. We've got a lot of different verticals that we're going to be able to hit with our Lumin operating system. So this is not about, selling a bunch of units and going public or selling off to private equity. We really want to build a sustainable business that's focused on making our Z's successful long-term and our partners successful long-term. And I feel very, confident, given my experience, if you do that, everything works out for everyone else.
Yeah.
The other problem we were trying to solve on the consumer side was, because we talked a little bit about the operator, how we're focused on that customer. For the consumer, there were a number of different elements that we're using technology for, but one of the, I think, the most important ones from my perspective, and the industry's really tried to do a good job over time of illustrating progress to the member. Mm-hmm. Progress is power. If the consumer is seeing progress, however they define that, they will continue on their journey and they will continue to be your customer. And it's really hard to illustrate progress to consumers. Right. And we as an industry, we've used scales as one way to do that, which is not a good measure of progress. We've used, calipers, which is there's a lot of friction there. It's invasive. We've tried, 3D body scanning and So we've worked hard to try to illustrate progress to the consumer. So what we wanted to do is we have the unique advantage of Lumin of having sensors all throughout our studio. So the studio's always monitoring what's happening in the studio, how the member is moving, what their range of motion is, how they're progressing along what we define as our Lumin score. Your muscular strength, your muscular endurance, your cardiovascular endurance, your mobility, your technique, all of these things that are so important in your fitness journey. We can actually have that data and share that data almost on a real-time basis with our members. So when they leave a Lumin workout, they're getting a daily highlight. You always have accomplished something that you haven't done before, and we're giving them that data real time. Data is dopamine. That's what gets you excited and gets you back in. If you know you're making progress, even if it's a little bit of progress, it's important to see that so that you're incented to come back into the studio. And a lot of what we're trying to accomplish is through motivation. A lot of people aren't intrinsically motivated to work out. It's really, really difficult. We're in the business of making people pay us to inflict pain on themselves, which is not a great business to be in, but it's a good business to be in. And if we can accomplish that, I think we've accomplished something really good for society.
Yes, I know. I agree. Great thoughts. I'm curious to hear some of your other thoughts about trends in the business in general, in the industry. So, for example, Planet for the first time took their rates up. Do you see, because a lot of growth has been in the low price, high value segment, as you well know. Do you think economics are starting to make those brands rethink their pricing strategies, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think $10 is a great marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the intent of it, right? We all in the fitness industry are trying to figure out top of funnel. How do you get people to make that step, take that action to come do something that's sometimes viewed as, not fun or not something they want to do, even though they know it's good for them. So the $10 price point is great from that perspective. I think Planet's gone about it in a really interesting way by grandfathering everybody in at $10, right? So you're going to keep that attrition low. I think they'll see really good results from that. I think the $15 price point, you're not going to price people out of that. I think it's still an attractive entry point, and I think that's responsible for them to do that, and hopefully others follow. But they really make their money not on the 15, not on the $10, but providing value and getting people to that black card in their case, or other brands upselling them to different levels, allowing them to access various elements of the studio. And what we're building and what we're doing with our AI-powered fitness experience through the station is going to assist them in doing that, right? How do you take that $15 member to $30 or to $40?
Right.
Well, you give them access to whether it's recovery or it's an AI experience to drive more value, not only for the member, but for the gym operator.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. What do you think about global competition? I mean, having been the CEO of one of the most well-respected brands and goals globally, you're seeing now Planet announced they're going into Spain. They've gone to Australia. You see Crunch continuing to pursue international expansion. You see Humphrey at Pure. They put some clubs in DC. I think they're contemplating, entry into the market. You see, do you see globalization continuing to happen with these brands, or what are your thoughts on that, if you have any?
Well, first of all, I think brands are powerful. I believe in brands, come from brands. Brands convey a lot to the consumer. It's a very powerful aspect of the consumer's experience, right? There's trust there that's built. There's experience there that's built. But I think one of the struggles for us is brand is not sufficient alone, right? So it's that first, it gets you a shot at the consumer. But one of the things the fitness industry, I think, struggles with is that differentiation inside of the box. So you get them into your brand. How are you different than the gym down the street, right? Fitness, right. Everybody's aware of fitness. Everybody knows fitness and wellness is important for them. There's a lot of competition. How do you differentiate? How are you different? And that was one of our struggles at Gold's. We had a great brand. People wanted to be a part of the brand, but there are other great brands out there too that have the same equipment, hire the same trainers, have the same Group X classes, charging the same price. So it's a really challenging operating environment, when you really don't differentiate, and when your product or service isn't different, your price has to be the differentiator, which is not a great place to be. And that's one of the main reasons we launched Lumin, was creating something that didn't exist anywhere else, right? So once a Lumin Fitness studio is in a city or a territory, it's gonna be really hard for another world's smartest fitness studio to open up across the street. We've invested a lot of time, energy, thought, experience, money into this to build this, so that we do create a differentiator for our franchisees, so they don't have to worry as an operator about how they compete with that studio across the street, because you've got something nobody else has and will for a long time, I think.
That's right, because the market, as you know, has really, the last 15 years has really bifurcated competition. So it's either luxury, high end, or boutique experience, or it's low price, right, where most of the wallet share is gone. And then you have the consumer experience. When you look at automation combined with that, which Apple being, the retailer of the century, essentially, where they deftly integrated technology into their in-store and online experience. It's very differentiated in how they could execute that. Or Target, and even their multi-billion-dollar investment in having omni-channel and what they did as a business. That's hard to do, right? And but if you're going to play the game and win, you've got to spend your time on those kind of things to differentiate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, differentiation's key. And I think the other, just to wrap up your prior question, as you expand internationally, I think as a franchise brand, it's very important to appreciate the local differences. Every country is different. Consumers, even within a country, are different. So I think you have to have a franchise model that appeals to different consumers, and you give enough flexibility locally to allow your franchise operator to leverage the systems that you put in place, but also give them flexibility to create an experience that's relevant to their local consumer.
Got it. No, I agree. So you're a very experienced business guy. If people can see your background and your work, you've done a lot of different things. You're highly educated and well experienced. I know I always ask this of people like you, who've accomplished so much and are on a path to doing even greater things. Is what you started this business up. You've run large companies. You've had a bite at the apple in venture capital and other dynamics. So what are some pearls of wisdom that you could share with the listeners as far as lessons you learned, both as a person starting a company, especially in this space with technology, and then giving your experience as well, just broadly in all the various roles you played?
Good question. Big question. I think across, I have had the privilege now of running big companies, running medium-sized companies, and now running a company that was basically a PowerPoint deck at one point and has now grown into still a small startup. I think the consistency across all of those is, first of all, the people, the team. As you know, you value the team. You've got to surround yourself with people that are smarter and better than you are as a leader. If you can do somebody's job on your team better than they can, you probably have the wrong person in that seat. I've always tried to surround myself, and it's not hard, with people that are smarter and better than me. I did that at Gold's. I did that at United Veterinary Care. I did it here at Lumin. A very talented team that does things I could never hope to do. So I think getting a team in place is extremely important. Making sure that chemistry across that team is important. There's communication across that team, vitally important. And that's different at different size companies. How we communicate at Lumin is different than how we communicated at Gold's. But it's important to find culturally what works and establish those social norms and get people using those processes and systems. I think the other element, especially on the startup side, is passion. You are going to hit walls. You're going to be selling to members, to franchisees, to people to come be a part of this journey, to investors, to the press. You've got to authentically believe in what you're doing and see the success, because you're going to hit walls, and there's going to be days you wake up that you just don't know how you're going to get through it. And it's that passion and that grit that's going to get you through it. So I think making sure wherever you cast your lot, from an employment perspective or from an entrepreneurship perspective, make sure it's something you authentically believe in and you're passionate about, and you wake up in the morning excited to go tackle. It's going to be needed because there will be days that's needed in all business.
Oh, yeah. I think those are great pearls of wisdom. Brandon, we're going to have all the connections and links in the show notes for everyone to go see more about Lumin Fitness, and of course, links to you. I know you're very highly respected by many of my colleagues in the space, and it's wonderful to see a guy like you and a team that you put together do something that's different. And kudos to you. You're well-deserved winning the innovation award you did from FITSE, and many more recognitions to come, I know.
Well, I appreciate that, Bryan. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.